Welcome to Cincinnati and the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships. We're in the women's division for a quarter-final matchup between Molly Brown from Denver and Ozone from Atlanta. Myself, Tom Stiles, in the booth alongside Emmy Fitzgerald for this USA versus USA matchup. Two teams who, since the Triple Crown Tour has been established, haven't actually met, and they were really looking forward to this matchup this morning.
Yes, Ozone out of Atlanta, been a team around since 1984. Molly Brown, on the other hand, was founded in 2010. So two programs with very different histories, but very storied programs nonetheless. And you would think, oh, two U.S. teams meeting with each other, that they must see each other all the time. They actually haven't, because they're in different parts of the country, and Ozone had such an upset last year at the U.S. Club Nationals, where they beat Seattle Riot in by one to advance on to the semifinals. But they have grown and become really, really strong, and they won their pre-quarter round 15-5 to qualify for this.
Let's just chat a little bit about that upset. Riot, in the tournament that was to decide who was going to come to the World Club Championships, Riot losing to Ozone. How much of a big story was that in the USA, and what were the repercussions of it?
That definitely sent shockwaves through everyone who was attending the tournament on site, but then that made definitely national news in the ultimate community, even across in European areas, just very, very surprised about it. But Ozone took care of business, and that's what's so amazing about competition is I tell players when I coach them, everyone has to score the same way. You cannot go into it taking for granted anything, and really anything is possible. Credit to Riot after that upset, maintaining enough composure to be able to qualify with a 5th place finish, and they are here at the WCC tournament. But Ozone, in the process, lost about 30% of their roster. Molly Brown, what I love, both teams, though, have so much character. You can see the coach of Molly Brown. He was not wearing this when we did the pregame interview.
It's quite possible to take Joe seriously. I don't think we'd be able to do that quite so easily anymore, but he embodies and embraces the character of this team. Molly Brown with one of the most distinctive, quirky, unusual characters of a team. They really do seem to have something unusual about the way this team works on the sideline. You see Jessie Schaffner sprinting across the field with pool noodles tucked under her arm. She throws them just off your camera angle. There she is with the pool noodles on the sideline. They've been having pool noodle battles. And Joe was talking about that as just one of the controllables. There's so many things in a tournament you can't control. But every warm-up before a game, you can hit each other with pool noodles and have a lot of good fun. And that's what they've been doing. They have the disc here in this opener in the quarter-final matchup. A place in the semis at the World Ultimate Club Championships at stake. Pip Caithley on the brick mark, attacking the Ozone end zone. Chastain with a quick flick and a very nice-looking first offensive point for Molly Brown.
Claire Chastain leading the team coming into the game in assists. She had 19. That would be her 20th so far in the tournament. And you can really see why. Just such clean offense from Molly Brown right up the force side.
Yeah, they accelerated quickly. We'll talk a lot more about the key players in that offensive line. Chastain, one of the best athletes in the division.
And one of the best handlers in the world. And you can see the separation that she's able to get into really tight spaces. She coaches also the Colorado University Cali team, who came in second at College Nationals. They had a kind of a bit of a Cinderella story. They were seeded lower than the second place finish, seated higher rather than second place finish. And Jesse Schaffner, another incredible athlete on the team.
Yeah, Chastain representing the USA under-23s on the beach in 2015. And she was a World Games alternate. Didn't make the trip to Poland, but was part of that training squad right until the last minute. Says a lot about how she's regarded in this community and the quality she brings. Matsunaga sends the disc across, not connecting with an Ozone player. Molly Brown with an opportunity to break early in the first half. Chastain on the disc. Applegate now. High disc rakes across the Ohio skies, safely caught by Peltier. Chastain once more. There's 3 players involved in the offense. Applegate again. Chastain, front of the stack cut. Applegate, the target again. Into the end zone. Schaffner sneaks into the back, grabs the disc high. The round blade was perfectly weighted into her path. No chance for the defender, despite the defender being very close to Schaffner. And Molly Brown with an early break in this game. Chastain and Applegate combining all the way down the field. And the disc from Applegate here. Positional perfection just around the fast-running Stubbs. Nothing that Atlanta could do.
And coming into the game, the Atlanta coaching staff said they really needed to convert on offense. Convert, be consistent on offense because of this very reason. If you turn the disc over, Molly Brown will probably not give it back. And they registered their first break of the game. And the Ozone team, though, with their own kind of cultural fun moments, today is Hawaiian Shirt Thursday. Took me a second to remember what day it is.
It's very confusing during a week-long Worlds tournament. It's still Worlds, and we're still in Cincinnati. And we just kind of get lost in this bubble of the week-long tournament. And enormous fun for everybody involved. But the Hawaiian shirts have come off. The red shirts of Ozone are on, and Seedor has it. Another shot in the end zone, and another turnover. Wooten with too much arm on that, sends it out the back of the end zone. Molly Brown with an opportunity for the 3rd point of the game. A 3-0 start is exactly what Ozone did not want to happen.
And Ozone has a lot of athletic receivers, which is why I'm sure they would want to start out with a big throw like that. But now, here's the Molly defense, D-line.
Slattery to the far side of the field. Lindgren underneath it. Gets a bit of a touch. Backing up. No question which team was going to end up with it. A little bit of a question about which player ended up with it. But Molly Brown have the disc. Miller was underneath there. Slattery on the sideline. Looks upfield. No question. No hesitation. Domination. 3-0. Molly Brown with the perfect start, Emmy.
And you can see the intensity of Molly Brown as Lindgren catches it, but Rebecca Miller is right there. And great defense from Ozone, but again, just really heads-up play. And Lindgren's ready to say, no, I had possession first. Oh, no, we're on the same team.
We're on the same team. It's fine, yeah. India, Stubbs, and Lindgren. Oh, sorry, not India, Stubbs. Lindgren and Miller.
Miller.
Was the 2 players from Molly Brown who had the disc. And 3 points in a row. Guess what comes next? Timeout. Exactly the right strategy from the coaching staff and players of Ozone. Call themselves a timeout. Have a chance to chill. And Molly Brown maybe thinking they've cruised to the first 3 points, not really stretched themselves, not turned the disc over, despite some pretty big Ozone pressure on that disc to Dana Slattery. They are in a comfort zone of a 3-point lead. Perfect start to this quarter-final matchup.
They start on a run, but this is the opportunity for Ozone to come on a run of their own right now. So far in the tournament, we've seen it difficult for teams to overcome deficits of more than 3 goals, but Molly Brown had to overcome a 4-point deficit against Iris. They were down 10-6 and ended up winning that game by 3.
Molly Brown also managed to put a 6-3 lead onto Revolution when they were playing the Colombian team, and only scored 4 more points the entire game. Revolution eventually running out 15-10 victors in that game. Handling error from Ozone. The nightmare for the team in red continues, just not able to connect with the discs. Chastain looking to punish these errors in the hands of Laurie. Chastain, I've not seen her take a break from the field so far, Emmy. She's such a key player. Runs down the line now to collect the disc. Hardesty. No, it's Flack. And a point block or a foul call. Foul uncontested. The disc from Vlack. Knocked to the ground. And the first turnover from Molly Brown. Ozone with a chance to settle the nerves, take away some of these handling errors, but they're really stretching every member of the team. Hicks has to dive to keep the disc alive. They need to settle. Looking nervous. Hard pressure, hard running. Slattery chasing that disc down. Again Hicks. And this time Hicks seems to stumble into that disc and she's hopping away, not taking an injury sub. Another chance for Molly Brown. The worst possible start to this game from Ozone. They look nervous, they've turned the disc easily, they've thrown away. Chastain with a break and making it look so easy. Molly Brown 4-0 up.
Molly Brown had 1 turnover, so they did not complete the break without a turn, but Ozone just really struggling to get in any kind of offensive rhythm so far in this game.
Chastain with a textbook low release break across the field, completely undefended. Can they continue? We'll find out in just a moment.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Ozone from Atlanta in the red shirts. Molly Brown from Denver, Colorado in the white. And Molly Brown making the perfect start. An offensive hold and 3 breaks. Mistakes coming thick and fast from the Ozone team, and another throwaway. Too deep, too much sauce on that one. Erin Schroeder, the target, Wilder ahead of her, and Molly Brown continuing to look dominant in this game. Really not the story we were expecting or hoping for. We thought this would be a really close battle. Ozone have looked strong all tournament, but they look nervous in this quarter-final. Molly Brown advancing up the field. Schaffner the target again. Runs on and grabs one-handed. The pace that Schaffner shows and the confidence grabbing that disc one-handed. Incredible athleticism from the number 2.
Jessie Schaffner has a great combination of speed and quickness. And once she's off to the races, it is incredibly difficult. Lindgren putting up the backhand, and you see that one-handed high point grab.
That's a really difficult catch with your wrist twisted backwards. She's catching the trailing edge of the disc. The disc is spinning out of her hand, not into it. But firm grip, great timing, never took her eyes off the disc. Superb technique from Schaffner, showing why she is one of the outstanding athletes on this Molly Brown side.
Schaffner, product of University of Oregon.
The fugue. Am I correct, Emmy? Fugue? Yeah.
Lives in Denver. Lizzie Laurie from Colorado. Saw her mom on the sideline before the game, pulling. Oh, her mom's not pulling, Lizzie's pulling. And a dropped pull from Ozone.
Oh, the nightmare continues for Ozone. They're on the wrong end of a 5-0 scoreline, and then they drop the pull. Can it get any worse? Molly Brown giving the disc back to them on this occasion. But the team in red are struggling with the nerves. Psychologically, they've been everywhere. The throws have not completed, needing to find something to settle their nerves. A point up the field, 64 yards, 64 meters to go. The throw again is just too far ahead. What on earth's going wrong with the Ozone players this morning, Emmy?
It's throws and catches. That's what it comes down to.
Good cut from Laurie. Into space, nicely weighted pass to Mi Win. And that break across the stack from Win. Molly Brown. High grab, looking into the end zone. Pelletier. And that's what Molly Brown are doing and what Ozone are not. When they throw a difficult disc, Molly Brown are grabbing it and taking it and moving it. Kalupek on the edge of the end zone. To the back corner. Liza Minor in no pressure, and Ozone are down 6 points with no reply. Molly Brown completely dominating, and they're going to be 2 points away from taking the half in 10 minutes. Unbelievable. The number of passes, single-digit passes for every single point from Molly Brown. They're getting it done. They're getting it done quickly. They're getting it done with style and confidence, and Ozone are everywhere.
And they're in the red zone. So yes, they're converting, but they have 30 yards that they need to travel because Ozone is having so much difficulty getting their offensive flow going. They have either had a short strike cuts they're having difficulty completing, but Molly Brown is a defensive force as well. Ozone is a good team, and Molly Brown so far seems to have Ozone's number.
Can anyone stop the Ozone nightmare? Find out after this.
If you want to be a high performer, eat like one. Start with a balanced diet and drink plenty of water. Good nutrition is one of the best ways to boost your mental and your physical health.
Molly Brown in this quarter-final matchup against Ozone have done everything right. Ozone have done everything wrong. Throwaways, nerves, dropped catches, dropped pulls. It has been a nightmare for the team from Atlanta. They've had a good run through this tournament. They've strong victories. I think Ozone are unbeaten in this tournament so far. Wins over Nice Bristol's, Cusb of Italy, Mantis of Austria, Rampage of Singapore, Aerosol of Colombia, an emphatic 15-5 victory, Huck of Japan, Swampy Barge of Japan, and now the first real test, and they are needing that timeout to come in and see if they can establish a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of the flow that's got them into this quarterfinal. Even if they do find the flow, they're going to have to get a lot of blocks against Molly Brown. But first job first, score your offense. Hicks into the end zone, and finally they find their flow. Finally they get on the scoreboard. They celebrate as though they've won the game.
That first point is the most difficult one to score in a game. And Ozone, so far in their offensive points, have looked for the huck right away, and that hasn't been successful for them. They've worked it underneath with those really well-timed continuation cuts. And they have athletic receivers, and they have good handlers. So it's nice to see them playing to their strengths. That also forces Molly Brown to be a little bit more nimble on defense versus before they said, okay, we just prevent a good huck throw. Now they have to take away the unders too.
Travaglini, the eventual scorer. Different style of offense from Ozone. I think if you've had a strategy which has worked the rest of the tournament, using your big throwers and your big receivers and your long game very effectively, and then you come up against a team which is taking that away. I don't think that was the only thing wrong with the way Ozone started this game. Psychologically, they looked almost like they didn't belong in a quarter-final, but now they've scored that point. Let's see if they can settle them. And the defense comes out and looking bouncy and enthusiastic. See if they can get a block. And they have got a turnover. Pip Caithley not connecting with that low one-handed grab. Disc asks a lot of her. Ozone with a chance for a break back themselves. This will settle the nerves. Doherty. Two players cutting up the line, contact made, but no foul call. Molly Brown have it back. Two players cutting into the same space, Emmy, not quite clicking on offense. Ozone still. Deep disc, sent downfield from Applegate. The target is Minor, and Minor runs hard. Has to watch as that disc disappears over her head and into the grass.
And that is pretty standard, Molly Brown. If they get it, they're shooting to the end zone right away, hoping to win that one-on-one matchup. But the throw, just not quite there.
Not a great deal of wind out here on the fields of the Lebanon Sports Center this morning. What little there is blowing towards the end zone where the disc is currently. The right-hand end zone as we look at it from a camera angle. Ozone in the red shirts with a nervous start to this game. Shooting through the finest of angles, and then a deep shot. It was so close to being spot on, but it just dies in the grass. Schroeder again watching as the disc disappears.
And that was a line drive of a huck to the end zone. It's not very forgiving for the receiver to come onto it, but she was open. The receiver had spacing.
The Ozone Cup, a big part of the success this week has been getting turns and blocks. Pick Caithley, no hesitation, downfield, and this time Molly Brown. Kalupek the target. And we asked the coach Joe about the outstanding players, and he did say no one on this team has looked more confident than Liz Kalupek this week.
Yes, Kalupek is from, she lives in Fort Collins, Colorado now. She's from Ames, Iowa, and she played with the Chad Larson experience, which was a successful mixed team in Iowa. She also played for Heist, then Small Batch, another women's team in Colorado, and then now Molly Brown. And she's a fast receiver, and there are a lot of fast players on this team, but for him to call her the fastest player on the field, it's a pretty high compliment.
Yeah. Kalupek. I'm getting a pronunciation wrong again. Kalupek.
So that was an offensive hold, but Molly Brown's O-line did have to work harder for that, but Ozone needs to get a lot of breaks pretty soon.
Caught the pull rather than letting it land in the grass. I do wonder sometimes once a team have already had one dropped pull, whether they're going to let all the others drop as well. Boyd, the disc downfield is too far ahead of Wotton. Another mistake. Devlin sends it, Hardesty underneath. Pressure from Ozone, sweeps the disc out of the field. Fedorenko reading it, was high above Hardesty's head. Hardesty had to stay in field and watch the disc as it came back into the field. Fedorenko with an easy job as a defender, sweeping that one away. Wotton. Crossfield to Palmer, now down the line. Smoother from Ozone. Lloyd. Back to Palmer. Palmer looking at the deep threat. With some jogged cuts in the deep field. A throw on a high stall count just to get position down the field. The Ozone deep cutters were being tightly marked by Molly Brown.
And Ozone was having difficulty using the full width of the field as well. When that turnover happened, you could see all 14 players inside probably about the same third of the far sideline.
Hardesty now. Across to Devlin. Tuig, downfield to Johnson. Johnson sends it, Hardesty underneath it this time, and almost a repeat. Hardesty having to sit underneath the disc, waiting for it to come down. The Ozone defense arriving, but this time the disc a little bit more edge on it, a little bit more arc, and straight into the hands of Alex Hardesty.
As soon as that backhand's open, it's headed straight for the end zone. Hardesty with a lot of spacing. Goes up so well before the defense can get there. Molly Brown takes half, 8-1.
There is a place where we are us at our best.
A place where everyone is welcome,
regardless of age, shape, skin color, or anything else that tries to box people in.
A place where we defy the odds.
And even defy gravity.
a place that knows grit, knows grace, knows bright lights, and knows empty bleachers.
A place where we remember to laugh.
Where we learn to trust.
And eventually, even learn to fly.
A place where character, community, and competition
are all as balanced as a disc in flight.
That place isn't in a stadium or on a field.
That place is in the spirit of our players.
Because we don't just play Ultimate, we live ultimate.
He's competing here at the World Flying Disc Federation 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships. Flying at the end of this quarter-final field. Tom Stiles and Emmy Fitzgerald covering this one for you. And Emmy, it's been a story of Ozone nerves and mistakes in this first half.
And Molly Brown taking care of business. They played a tough pre-quarter against Iris, but came out with all cylinders firing this morning in Lebanon, Ohio, not pulling any punches.
Every time an Ozone mistake was made, Molly Brown punished it. A dropped pull. It was quick offense. They've only had one possession where they used more than 10 passes. It's been really impressive clinical offense when they've had the disc at the start of the point and when they've taken it off Ozone as well. The Denver team, Molly Brown in the driving seat in the first half. Hardest Steve. Final take of our highlight reel from the first half. Can they continue? Can Ozone put pressure back on them in the second half? The Ozone coaching staff with some furrowed brows, worried looks. They've played all 7 of the games they've played so far, have finished in a victory for the team from Atlanta. And now they face their first stern test of the tournament. And sometimes when a team has not really had that challenge, pulling yourself out of a hole like this, especially a hole this deep, I mean 7 points back at the end of the first half is quite a mountain to climb.
And this is what we talked about. One of the things we talked about with Joe Durst this morning was the close quarterfinal that Molly Brown had. They had to score several points in a row to be able to beat Iris. But a lot of times that type of adversity and overcoming that adversity is really great for bringing a team together. And then you have that fuel and fire as you go into the next day. That seems to be working really well for them. Ozone has not quite had that adversity, so they've been really light and loose and playing well. But you find, they always say the best gems and precious jewels come out of the most pressure. So the pressure that Molly Brown has been able to overcome so far has proven them well. However, this is only the quarterfinals. The tournament's far from over. The winner will face the winner of Seattle Riot versus Sixers from Canada.
Molly Brown, they came up against a bit of a test in pool play against the Australian team Ellipsis. They took them to 15-11. But the rest of the matches in their pool against Zuf from Switzerland, Helsinki from Finland, and KFUM Åbro from Sweden, which was a 15-1 mashing. Not really challenged in pool play. And then they faced Mud from Japan and Revolution from Colombia in the power pool, losing to Revolution. Revolution, the hot favourite for this tournament, I think, alongside Fury. But Fury have got a stern test in Riot. If that's Fury group squad is their quarter-final.
Two teams that always square up against each other with really, really fun results. But it'll be really interesting to see. I love the name of Molly Brown. It's I believe it's the Indomitable Molly Brown. She was a suffragette from Colorado. Unsinkable Molly Brown. And if you go to Denver, you see she is all around the culture in Colorado. There are menus in restaurants, menu items named. You can get the Unsinkable Molly Brown, sandwich or whatever it is. But what that really stands for, someone who really spoke up for women's rights and all of that. And that's something that Molly Brown, that strength, is what the Molly Brown Ultimate team is really carrying with them.
It's also something a lot of the players as individuals and as a team have campaigned for, gender equity in the sport of Ultimate.
And also really giving back to their community, coaching teams. Saw a lot of presence at college nationals.
Second half is underway here at the 2018 World Ultimate Club Championship quarter-final. A space in the semi. Up for grabs. Deep shot from Ozone is turned. It's the same story as we saw in the first half. The Ozone deep game being closed out by hard pressure from Molly Brown. And Molly Brown with an opportunity to open their account in this second half with another break.
With Ozone in the zone look, it seems like they maybe did a huck and play D, forcing a lot of passes.
And Molly Brown has looked so comfortable on the disc. Ozone not able to stop any of their movement or any of their flow. They've looked confident, calm, quick movement, the stall count never rising. Going through the cup, Slattery takes a bash on the shoulder, goes to ground, brushes it off, stands back up. A dump pass back to Devlin. Slattery again. Black, downfield to Miller. Miller exposing the full width of the field, and it's so easy once they get moving through that cup. Ozone not able to contain the movement of Molly Brown. Miller's disc across the field. 9-1 in a quarter-final at the World Championship. Molly Brown, they must take so much confidence from this game.
This is definitely a confidence builder, but something that is really important to keep in perspective, that Ozone had a rough start and had turnovers that are quite frankly uncharacteristic for their team. And Molly Brown capitalizing when they needed to, so hats off to them. But this is an anomaly. This is not something that should be expected at all going forward for the rest of the tournament.
We're chatting to Ali Smith, performance director for UK Ultimate and sports psychologist, and it's one of the things she was telling us about, for the benefit of our coverage, about how when you get to this sort of top level of any sport really, but particularly Ultimate, the athletic differences and the skill differences between the players actually decreases. And what you're really looking at is the psychological strength of the squad. It's not something that very many teams really drill and train to have that psychological strength. As you were saying earlier, Emmy, Molly Brown have been through the ringer this week. They've had some hard games. They've had to come back from deficits, and they've done that. And that has built some real strength. Ozone, and another error just creeping into play. Not enough accuracy on the disc, not enough care with the disc.
What's important for Molly Brown, though, is to keep playing as seriously as if it is ultimate point.
Schaffner to the middle of the field. Has it again. Laurie not connecting with the first grab. Back across. Nearly in. Lindgren. Back to Schaffner. Schaffner's disc. It's going to require a layout, but gets one. Lizzie Laurie. That's twice in the same point. Lizzie Laurie needing 2 grabs at the disc to get it. That time it was a second time layout grab. But she does what she needs to do to keep the disc alive, score the point for Molly Brown. They had 6 breaks in the first half and 2 breaks in the second. It's 10-1 in a World's quarterfinal. I cannot believe what we're watching out here. It's incredible.
Lizzie Laurie having so much composure, catching 2 of those discs that were harder to catch. She comes from a really long family history of ultimate. Her dad is actually competing in the Grandmasters Nationals, Grandmasters Division at Masters Nationals in Aurora, Illinois this weekend. Her father, Phil, he started playing decades ago, and their whole family wears number 42 as a reference from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you see on her brother plays for Johnny Bravo, he wears number 42. Her other brother plays, I believe, for Rhino, I think. He's a University of Oregon player. Also wears number 42.
I did notice Lizzie Laurie's bag had a towel in it. Maybe that's why.
She has really sticky hands.
It's her 5th season on Molly Brown. And contributing in a big way in this quarterfinal. Ozone finally with a deep shot that comes off. Using a play and seeing it completed. Can they score in the red zone? Wooten. Finally, they've done what they've needed to do with the swing across, dump and swing, textbook offense from the red zone, and the team in red with their 2nd point of the game. A 2nd point of the game. I cannot believe what we're watching. This is incredible stuff in the quarterfinal. Ozone on the scoreboard for only the 2nd time in this game. Back with more in a moment.
Do you want to avoid overuse injuries? Cross-train. Get your exercise routine out of a routine and mix it up with a variety of activities. Your muscles, tendons, and joints will thank you later.
I cannot believe that in the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championship quarter-final round, we are looking at a 10-2 scoreline. Molly Brown on fire. Ozone with coming out on defense now, but only just scored their 2nd point of the game. The team from Denver playing solid and punishing every error. There's been no shortage of them. And the team in red, Atlanta Ozone, and they have their defense set. Pitt Caithley lurking behind the zone. She has it. Big hammer reaching her. And Ozone looking tired as they run that zone look back. They've dropped into a one-on-one mark. Someone's completely isolated. Paige Applegate is that player. She has the disc in hand. Turnover for Ozone. Chastain beaten to the disc. And a deep shot goes up. Chastain's underneath it. She's looking at the disc the whole way and she just tips it off the top. Connection and contact.
Alex Fairley is one of the go-to receivers for Ozone with 6 goals so far on the weekend. She had spacing, but that disc hung for a little bit, allows enough time for Chastain to sweep in.
Uncontested foul. Chastain jumping all the way through fairly. Eyes on the disc. And then a misconnection. Eyes not quite meeting. The receiver not quite understanding Fairley's intention. Disc goes to ground, and Molly Brown with yet another opportunity. Pitt Caithley, confident layout, two-handed. Fetcher back into the hands of Applegate. Applegate's disc is low because of the foul. Travaglini contacting as the disc came out of the hands, and a timeout called by Molly Brown.
You have this 4-person cup that Ozone is running, so that leaves that area open over the top. So Molly Brown has been taking advantage of that over the top. They reset. When they reset to the handler, it gets back within that 4-person cup, and Molly's handlers are taking a little bit of time. They're not able to shred it right away. So probably calling the timeout to go through the adjustments a little bit.
And credit to Molly Brown, despite their 8-point margin, they want to close this one out. They want to get off the field. They want to go shelter out of the sun. They only have this one game today. And if they can get it done quick, save their energy, then that will be a massive advantage in the semi-final. Also showing a lot of, respect to their opponent. I think sometimes you see teams take a big lead and just slack off for the rest of the game. Molly Brown not doing that, calling that timeout because they're not happy with the way they're attacking this Ozone zone.
And this is, this is Worlds. So if you slack off, you were talking about mental fortitude. If you take a kind of laissez-faire attitude while you're in a game, that does not help you prepare for tougher matchups that may come later on in the tournament, or if you see a zone like this again.
Applegate, Pitt Caithley. The disc from Pitt Caithley behind the receiver. Knee win, goes to ground. And Wootton spreading the play. Emmerich. Travaglini. Contact from Pitt Caithley. Ozone, 3 handlers, horizontal stack. Shot on a high stall count into the end zone and into traffic. Just enough contact from Molly Brown to bash the disc away. Corla Peck again involved in that defense. Molly Brown again with the disc on offense. It's not been a clean offensive point. We've seen them play so well in their 2 previous offensive points. This one has been a bit messy. Ozone finally having the impact they wanted to with their zone defense, but flowing nicely through Schaffner and Slattery, and back to Betcher, and now to Pitt Caithley. Pitt Caithley down to Corla Peck. Pitt Caithley to Schaffner. That is a nice disc. Opens up the whole field. Betcher goes to ground. Cannot connect. The disc from Schaffner was quick, perhaps a little too quick on that occasion.
Betcher needing to leave her feet to get there, but not the best throw.
Travaglini opened up the body to throw the deep disc. Didn't release. Maybe seeing so many of the deep shots from Ozone be turned over, she had second thoughts. Another chance now. And she's going to have to bid. Two hands, does so. Travaglini involved in every other pass. Scooping up the soup from the bowl. A celebration. They're back within 7.
The short controlled passes are working, but what I really like about Ozone's adjustments is Molly Brown called a timeout. They were having a little bit of difficulty with that 4-person cup. Coming out of the timeout, Ozone had a different zone look. And I think I always love it when coaches do that. Say, okay, well, they called a timeout to figure out what we're doing. Let's throw something else completely different at them, so then they have something else to react to. That worked well. And you can see when Ozone is playing their game, they're doing a good job. There's just no margin for the miscues that happened earlier on.
And Molly Brown, for the first time in the game, making some handling errors, some timing errors of their own. The throw to Bacher in the end zone from Schaffner wasn't clean enough, wasn't high enough. Bacher had to go to ground to grab it, and eventually didn't quite connect. And there was another throwaway in the midfield. So twice Ozone getting the disc from the team in white. Hardesty. That zone is set again. Molly Brown working it downfield with Tuig. Taggart. Across to Devlin. Hardesty. The disc almost caught by Taggart as she cut across. Taggart has it again. Ozone have melted to a one-on-one D. High release, forehand, and onto the break side. Hardesty is the target with that little high release flick to open up the field. Molly Brown 4 points away from the game with a huge margin.
And the zone look from Ozone is designed to prevent throws upfield. But once you break through, you have a lot of space. Molly Brown staying very patient with their handlers to find an opening in the end zone.
The great slow-mo of that high release flick. Lift your hand up. It's a very difficult throw to get enough spin on the disc to keep it flat. It was only a short pass, it only needed to be a short pass, but getting all the defenders on the wrong side, allowing Molly Brown to work it into the end zone. Again, the disc to Alex Hardesty wasn't fantastic disc. It wasn't low, it was a little bit bobbly. It doesn't matter. If all of the defenders are on the wrong side, Hardesty can just run on that, take a bit of time and grab it out of the sky. Schaffner with the pull. The D-line from Molly Brown runs upfield. Slattery with their opening defensive mark. Ozone moving it now. Matsunaga downfield to Stubbs. Stubbs back around to Wootton. Reese. Wootton cuts. The disc is just beyond her. The sort of throwing errors we've seen throughout this game from the team in red.
It was a good cut and it was a good look, but execution not quite on point.
I think there might have been a pick called or a foul called. Contact made, maybe that explains why the disc to Wootton was wayward.
And if you are US viewers may be unfamiliar with WIFTIF rules, in USA Ultimate rules, if you throw it away on a pick, that's a turnover. That is not the case in WIFTIF rules. The disc comes back.
Game advisors stepping in. 2 game advisors on every field we've had for our televised games. Previously, in the previous World Flying Disc Federation tournaments, they've had 4 game advisors per field. This World Club Championships going with 2. It's been a different look. They've had just as much impact. Just clarifying what's going on the field for all the players. Ozone have it still. Reese. Into the end zone, Stubbs the target. Great cut from Stubbs, high release from Reese. And 4-11 is the score.
So better execution on that next. Still had to get a backhand break around a tall mark from Lori. But the second opportunity for Ozone paid off for them.
Yeah, it's a quick step. Nice technique from Reese. Just a flick of the wrist to pop it into the space. Fast run onto the disc. Good timing of the cuts.
Haley Reese started the Grady High School girls team as a coach in 2012. She coached there for 5 years and saw the program grow from 5 players on one team to almost 40 players. So they had to split into a varsity and junior varsity team. And she was named Coach of the Year in 2015 for the state of Georgia.
And here she is representing on the world stage for Ozone.
Also part of the Masters women's beach team in Royan that took gold.
Chastain. To Applegate, back to Chastain. Zone from Ozone. We'll just call it the O-Zone. Schaffner rises, Applegate. And Chastain. The Molly Brown handlers. All the confidence to work it through. Ozone dropped to a one-on-one. High release flick from Applegate is delightful. Chastain takes, and a quick movement into the end zone. Molly Brown looking calm and composed, and perfection through the zone. This little high release disc from Applegate. The signal from the hand. The team react. Really, really high release as well. Chastain in space. That's all it needed. Disc skills and coordination between the team. That's a hard throw. Pulled off to perfection. Great camera angle to see that as well. Chastain in the front of the stack. The Ozone player wrong-sided by that disc. Make it look very simple. Lots of space to run into once that break had gone.
And when you have a talented handler core and then really fast receivers like Kalipek there, you could see from that camera angle the really nice timing of those continuation cuts. Applegate to Chastain, then to Kalipek, and that really couldn't ask for better timing to get the score.
Hardesty with the disc downfield. Ozone with a mountain to climb in this second half. Harris to Palmer. Palmer across to Lynn. Lynn's disc is high, but read by Lloyd. She reaches and grabs. In the midfield is Seedor. Woodhurst. Pressure from Miller. Gets the hand up, touches the disc away from Ozone. And Molly Brown, despite their margin of the lead at the moment, are still putting every bit of pressure, wanting to close this game out. Becca Miller with it again now. Disc in hand, just as confident with that big block on D. Devlin. Cross field and back across the other side. What a high take, reading it perfect. Sam Pelletier takes the disc down and they're within 2 of the game.
Pelletier, one-handed, goes up to catch her 3rd goal of the game. And I completely agree, Tom. No matter what the score says, Molly Brown is playing like it is a very, very tight, close game, going for those layout Ds, going up for those one-handed catches.
You see Becca Miller coming through with the big block. The intensity of the pressure relentless from Molly Brown as they move closer and closer to the place in the semi-final.
Heat illness strikes kids and adults alike during summer workouts. Watch for muscle cramps, fever, nausea, headache, weakness, or feeling faint. Act fast to get cool and get fluids.
This comes down to Ozone. Hard to watch this Ozone team, having had such a strong tournament, arrive in this quarterfinal, and the pressure that Molly Brown have put them under and the mistakes they've made themselves as a squad. Taggart breaks across to Laurie. Laurie to Devlin. Devlin has Taggart available as a reset if she needs. Devlin looking into the end zone, a float across, grab front line. Can they blast it in? They do. Slattery with the cut to the front cone. And Molly Brown are within 1. An absolutely dominant performance, punishing Ozone's errors throughout this game.
Again, attacking that break side with the really nice around cuts, those fakes and continuation. This time up to the front cone. Dina Slattery there.
We've been doing stats on all of the games that we've televised this week, and we have Melissa down on the sideline keeping track of all the passes and the scores and the breaks. I've never seen stats like this, Emmy. Throughout all the work we've done this week, the Molly Brown D-line have had 76% breaks. They've broken 10 out of 13 times that they've been on the field. It's incredible.
It's really remarkable, and Ozone has had some of that success in other games in the tournament against teams that they beat handily, but they are not on the end of the percentages that they would like to be in this game.
And they've the 100% conversions as well. So when the D-line have had the disc, they've scored the point. They've given it up on 3 of those occasions, but they've got it back every time. It's this D-line from Molly Brown. Ozone have played a poor game by their standards, but they've been punished for every mistake. And again, Palmer just throwing the discs into a leg, not even a hand block. It's just sticking out a leg. It's been a performance that Ozone will happily forget. Pick Caithley. Has the disc again, looking downfield. Molly Brown looking to close this one out. Molly Brown, when they do make mistakes, seem to be clinging on. They've ridden a little bit of luck. Pitcaithley floating the disc across, run down hard by Pesh. Ives back to Pitcaithley. Pesh available again, 1-2 connection between Pesh and Pitcaithley. Knocking on the door, see if they can find a way in. They're deep in the red zone. Molly Brown for a chance at the semi-final, looking for that final pass. Pitcaithley sends it. 2 players go for it, and eventually it's grabbed. A pick is called, and it will come back out again.
Liza Miners had really great hands in this game. She scored 2 goals so far. She's also a veteran player on this team, coming out of the University of Iowa. So she had a really great read on the disc, but the disc will go back.
Pitcaithley, one more time for Molly Brown. Bacher. Pitcaithley continues the cut, but it's well defended by Palmer. Into the front corner, Liza Miner scores it and takes Molly Brown into the World Ultimate Club Championships semi-final. Incredible play from Molly Brown. Ozone will be going home for a place in the 5 to 8 bracket, licking their wounds. A poor performance from them. Mistakes have been punished by Molly Brown, and they've been determined and concentrated, tenacious all the way to the close of this game. Molly Brown deserved victories, a huge margin, an 11-point margin, 15-4 in a quarter-final of the World Championships. Emmy, what a performance from Molly Brown.
Molly Brown converts when they need to convert. They do not let their opponent leave any room for error. That said, we've seen against other opponents when they are playing their best game, Molly Brown isn't quite as dominant. So I'll be really curious to see how it matches up in the semifinal.
And some of the action, we've seen Molly Brown using the skills, the throws, the layouts, the athleticism, punishing every error that the team from Atlanta have made. And that's what you're going to need to do. Lizzie Laurie and that second chance diving layout into the end zone. The high release skills from Applegate, opening up the field.
Layout D from Becca Miller. Molly Brown suffocating in their victory over Ozone.
It's been our pleasure to bring you this one. Tom Stiles and Emmy Fitzgerald watching Molly Brown advance to the semi-final. They will be in for a big game here at the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships. Join us for more all this week.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.